Hey Star Warriors, StarGeek here, and welcome to the special 30th episode of Star Wars Factor Beam, the series where I tell you 10 Star Wars facts that you can't pull away from. Each episode is centered around a certain character, film, or category. In today's special episode, the film under lockdown in the cell block level of the Fact Star is Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Let's just hop right into it with fact number 1. Return of the Jedi is infamous for its many names.
Revenge of the Jedi, coming May 25th to a theater in your galaxy.
Return of the Jedi, Episode 6, or just Jedi. Whatever you call it, this film goes by a variety of titles. During production of the movie, Lucasfilm masked the true identity of the project by publicly referring to it under the guise Blue Harvest, Horror Beyond Imagination. This was a way to film major scenes with all the main actors without attracting any onlookers to peek around the set. Blue Harvest has become a bit of a Star Wars in-joke, with many references being made to it throughout various projects. In fact, try searching the URL www.blueharvest.com and see what happens. Return of the Jedi is also known for at one point being named Revenge of the Jedi. Lucas always wanted it to be called Return of the Jedi, but producers didn't think that was quite strong enough, switching it to the more aggressive name. But Lucas got his way in the end, switching it back in time for its final release.
Return of the Jedi.
Fact number 2. Director Richard Marquand was a last resort choice to work on this movie.
And I'm going to come closer, shoot them through the thing, the hologram, and then just go inside it for some sort of loosish stuff.
George Lucas had his heart set on snagging his longtime friend and fellow movie brat Steven Spielberg to direct Episode 6. But after parting ways with the Directors Guild due to conflict during production on The Empire Strikes Back, Lucas was barred from access to their members, making Spielberg totally off limits. Lucas moved on to other options, such as director David Lynch. Lynch turned down the offer after getting a migraine during the meeting with George Lucas, going on the next year to make the sci-fi classic Dune. After shuffling through a few more choices and being turned down every time, he finally resorted to Richard Marquand, the Welsh director with a relatively small repertoire. Lucas hoped that Marquand could handle the bulk of the directing due to George's past stresses on film sets and a difficult personal life at the time. But he still ended up being on set every day due to Marquand's inexperience with this type of movie. In the end, Marquand still delivered a classic piece of cinematic history.
For me, this film is about friendship and loyalty and trust and self-identification. But don't take it too seriously. Let's have a laugh about it. But when we're going to cry, let's cry. When we're going to laugh, let's laugh. And I think that's what I guess I brought to this movie, and I like to think that's why I was asked to direct it.
Fact number 3. Speaking of Spielberg, E.T. made an undercover contribution to a certain character.
E.T. Home phone.
Most fans know about the E.T. Easter egg in The Phantom Menace, but did you know that the voice for Leia's bounty hunter decoy, Boushh, was played by Pat Welsh? Welsh is well known solely for her role as the voice of the beloved Ahsogian alien, first catching the attention of George Lucas himself. He was in a laundromat when he heard her unique chain-smoker voice, giving her the role of E.T. She returned the favor to Lucas by also making her mark on the Star Wars universe, with this iconic character, technically making her the only other actress to play Princess Leia in the original trilogy.
A young man came over to me and introduced himself and said, "Did I always speak in that low voice?" And I said, "Yes, it's the only voice I have."
Fact number 4. The menacing spinning chair of the Emperor had a bit of a technical difficulty.
He will come to you, and then you will bring him before me.
As you wish.
Nothing screams intimidation quite like Palpatine's big, threatening, and suave spinning throne. Unfortunately, the mechanism that was supposed to make it rotate never actually worked, meaning that in every scene where Palpatine's throne is moving, Ian McDiarmid is actually shuffling it around with his feet. There were tape markings on the floor to show him where to stop scooting along. It definitely takes out some of his menacing qualities.
Good chair, good chair. Nice lumbar support. Great view of utter blackness.
Fact number 5. The oft-forgotten Moff Jarrod was originally going to play a much bigger role.
We shall double our efforts.
I hope so, Commander, for your sake.
In one of the original drafts for the movie, Moff Jarrod was actually Grand Moff Jarrod, and served as Vader's biggest adversary throughout the film. He constantly steals the spotlight from the Sith Lord, and even schemes with the Emperor to turn Luke to the dark side himself, while betraying Vader in the process. But his luck doesn't last long, when Vader finds out and snaps his neck. In the final cut and deleted scenes, Jarrod plays a much more timid and much kinder soul, struggling with whether or not to launch the ion cannon to blow up the forest moon.
Moon target in range. Sir, moon target in range now.
Commence firing.
Fact number 6. Yoda was not always meant to make an appearance in this final chapter.
When 900 years old you reach, look as good you will not.
Star Wars was supposed to be done with the little green Jedi Master after he had served his purpose in The Empire Strikes Back. But when a psychologist told Lucas that people would have a hard time believing that Vader was actually Luke's father, and hadn't just lied to him in the last movie, Yoda was added to correct that misconception. He was a reliable source to verify to the audience members, and especially children, that Vader was indeed telling the truth.
Your father is.
Fact number 7. Ewoks had a lot more problems to them than it may seem. The Battle of Endor was originally meant to be the Battle of Kashyyyk, and the Ewoks would be Wookiees defending their home world. George Lucas decided that Chewbacca had been too well established as an advanced species to serve the primitive role that he had intended the creatures to play. Instead, Ewoks were put in their place, and they needed a design. The incredible Star Wars concept artist Ralph McQuarrie got to work on creating the look for the creatures. But as Lucas kept giving him notes to make them cuter and cuddlier, McQuarrie became unsatisfied with the project. He finally decided that the Ewoks were becoming teddy bear-like cash grabs, and gave up the project completely, walking away from Star Wars entirely because of his creative differences. This sentiment was shared among nearly everyone in the cast and crew during production, with the sole exception of George Lucas, who felt that the Ewoks were the right choice for the film. Even the Ewok actors themselves weren't fans. Poor work conditions and low pay made them revolt, leaving a note for the production assistant that they had all quit and booked a plane ticket out of the state. Just before the PA was about to rush after them, their bus showed up to the set and the actors all filed out wearing Revenge of the Ewok t-shirts. And to top things off, when R2-D2 actor Kenny Baker was going to play the main Ewok of the film, he became extremely ill of food poisoning, and Warwick Davis had to fill in. Overall, not a fun time to be an Ewok.
Whatever you feel inside, no matter that you've got a big costume on like that with all that padding, it shows through. What you feel and think shows through on your face.
Fact number 8. The final battle of the movie was meant to take place on a familiar Imperial planet.
It's treason, then.
When the Emperor's throne room scenes were first conceived, they were supposed to take place at the Imperial capital on Coruscant. Well, that was part of the problem. They didn't quite have a name for this planet yet. Coruscant wasn't coined until Timothy Zahn's 1991 novel Heir to the Empire. Instead, they were calling the Imperial city planet Had Abaddon. It just didn't have quite the right ring to it, so they decided to rid it from the story completely. Of course, it wasn't just a naming issue that made them cut the concept. The idea of a fully expansive cityscape urban-based planet was just too daunting for the technology at the time, and wasn't seen until 1999's The Phantom Menace, when Lucas was finally able to realize his old dreams. Coruscant was also added to the end of the special edition of Return of the Jedi, a moment that was included in the original script. In addition to this, there was a draft of the script where Obi-Wan was resurrected from the realm of the Force and rejoined the physical world to help Luke fight Vader. By the end of the movie, Yoda would also materialize into the physical world, as if neither of them had ever really died. Quite the concept.
If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Fact number 9. The ending to the film was originally going to be much more melancholy. It's rumored that this movie was going to end on a much more somber note. Instead of everyone happily dancing victoriously in the trees amongst the little fuzzy teddy bears, the movie was going to end with Han Solo's death and Luke Skywalker going into hiding, depressingly walking off into the sunset as a recluse. Sounds a little bit familiar. But that's not the darkest ending. Another concept that George Lucas and writer Lawrence Kasdan were bouncing around was to end the film with Darth Vader turning back to the light side, and in his dying breaths removing his helmet, only to have Luke take that helmet and put it on himself, while saying the line, "Now I am Vader." But they opted for something a bit more positive. And finally, fact number 10. How about something a little bit different? Here's a flash round.
Kiss me.
C-3PO actor Anthony Daniels had a panic attack while filming this scene, and they used the take.
I'm back! Come up.
Fake scripts were given to untrustworthy actors who were known to leak information to the press, and sure enough, The rumor that Lando was the last hope that Yoda and Obi-Wan had mentioned in Episode 5 was falsely leaked.
Lando! The Force be with you.
Good luck to you.
Alec Guinness filmed his Obi-Wan scenes in just one day.
So what I told you was true, from a certain point of view.
The words Ewok, Palpatine, and Sith are never mentioned even once in the movie, but it's the first time TIE Fighter is named aloud.
And see if you can get a few of those TIE Fighters to follow you.
John Williams' son, Joseph Williams, a singer for the band Toto, wrote the lyrics for the Yub Nub song. And lastly, Luke's lightsaber was supposed to be blue, but since it didn't show up against the Tatooine sky, it was changed to green. That wraps up episode number 30 of Star Wars Factor Beam. Subscribe to StarGeek for in-depth Star Wars content. Did you learn anything about the final film in the original trilogy, Return of the Jedi? If so, put it in the comments below. If you enjoyed the movie or love episode 6, please shoot that like button at light speed. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by clicking the links in the description. And you can check out my last video on the history of Star Wars animation and why we need the Clone Wars if you just click on the thumbnail. You can also click on the right to watch Factor Beam episode 29 on Jar Jar Binks. Don't forget to like the video and comment on your character suggestions below. Until we meet again in a galaxy far, far away, this has been StarGeek.